What's going on, everyone? Check out what's coming up this week on Legacies. What the fuck does that even mean? Can I be the first to just ask that?
For me, it was blowing into my Super Nintendo cartridges, is what it was, to get them to work.
Yeah.
We do deck reviews or dope box. Like, first you do dope box, right?
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Legacies. I'm your host, Tom Ritchie. Joining me, Mr. Wesley Bowles. Wes, how you doing this morning?
Hey now. No,
hey now. That's Howard Stern. I wanted to use Howard Stern's "Hey now" for the longest time. 4 years of conditioning and those commutes. I want to. Hey now.
It's so classic. It's so good.
It is.
Works.
Is it an homage if we were to use it?
Yeah, I mean it's creative inspiration, I think, is what it is.
Howard Stern can get stinky though. Like, I don't know if you like some of the episodes or whatever when he moved to Sirius and Sirius XM now, I guess. He got really crotchety in some.
Yeah,
form.
he's not the he's not the type of person you want to be on the bad side, because he's got that.
He's got a massive fucking audience.
Yeah, he's got that army behind him too, right?
But, yeah. There's a huge army. I did not realize there was something. I caught the tail end of, I don't know, a documentary or something. And it was about when he was on terrestrial radio, and he had competition in the same building. They're I think it was Chicago, was it, or New York maybe? I can't recall their names, but it was a duo, and they fought constantly, like Howard Stern. And then when Howard moved to satellite radio, it was an even bigger clash. But basically, at the time, Sirius XM had, or Sirius, I think it was Sirius he went to first. They had 700,000 subscribers. Within a very short span of time, they went to 2.1 million. And I'm talking months, because everyone followed Howard over. But he had a massive rivalry going against this duo that I can't recall who it was. But yeah, interesting. Howard Stern wasn't the only shock jock.
No, he wasn't. Did you watch Private Parts, right? His movie from the...
Oh, yeah, I think it was multiple times. I had that on
movie.
VHS when I was, back in the 90s when I was living on my own. God, we wore that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I love it.
It's an incredible movie. I was, fart man. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Fart man. And pulled that off successfully too. Like, come on. I don't even get it. But anyways, yeah. Hey now.
Hey now.
I love it. There's some big news. You caught this. We've talked about this a little bit. Houseplant is available in Canada, but not the cannabis.
Hooray! Yeah, we won't take. Maybe we'll take the credit for it. I don't know.
Hey, we should take some credit. I think we stirred quite a bit up. Now, is it just timing and coincidence? Potentially, but we do have something to say about this, because we noticed the comments, and the shipping is not cheap. And when I saw one of the comments, I think it was someone in Newfoundland, was looking at an ashtray set, and their comment was, yeah, but $272 to ship to Newfoundland. And if it's an ashtray set, I'm going to assume 200, maybe somewhere in there. Come on, guys. Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, you've got to do something better. I commented and I joked. I said, this is DHL. We're not shipping plutonium, for Christ's sakes. Like, come on.
Right.
But if you want us to be buying your wares, it's great that you're available in Canada now, but you've got to do something with the shipping. Like, United States Postal Service will do it for much less, I'm sure.
Yeah, I imagine that's an outrageous amount of shipping prices. I mean, we know what it's like to ship stuff, being from the high flyer side.
Oh yeah,
there are a lot of things that go into determining shipping costs.
There's some nuances
like that, but
for sure,
I can imagine then if they've just come back into Canada, maybe this is a stopgap solution until the only reason they'd be using DHL or something like that is they don't have massive Canadian distribution, right? There's no warehouse the stuff is coming from locally.
No, it's coming from the US, but
right.
Come on, we know that. Wes, we know this. We've configured back in the days of Ample, even setting up High Flyer, we can configure and choose who our shipping partners are. And they are better rates. I honestly don't understand, even with DHL, how the rates can be that much. I don't know if there's brokerage fees. Obviously, anything coming across the border, certain things fall within that free trade. I don't know if that even exists anymore. But certain things have duties on them. But even if you're $200, the duties at max are probably $30, $40, right? And then you get a brokerage fee. call that another $30, $40. So even at $80 plus shipping, you're maybe $120, $130. Now I do get you're coming from Cali all the way across North America diagonally to Newfoundland, but $272. So I had to confirm this. I went in, I've had my eyes on this espresso set, right? It's by Seth, even though it's not him that touched this. It would be, reproduced. And I think the set was $110, maybe a little bit more Canadian. Shipping to Ontario, $90. And I'm like, I'll go to fucking Goodwill and find something old and retro and nostalgic looking before I do that. We want to support Houseplant. Seth, good old Canadian boy. But you've got to do better when it comes to shipping. You've got to. We're just not going to see the Houseplant brand up here unless they do something about it. So,
yeah, it's a shame. They got some nice stuff.
So good news, bad news.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see some
one
change.
step. I like your positivity though. Maybe they're just looking at, and you know me, I always play the devil's advocate, going, "Come the fuck on. We could have solved this right from the get go as soon as you're configuring ship." And maybe they don't know. Maybe they didn't test it. Maybe they didn't find out what it would cost. But we certainly would like to see those shipping rates reduced. And, if they need distribution, we can help with that. But anyways, what else is going on? There's some really wonky shit going on in the cannabis industry. You see the highs and the lows. And sometimes it's tough, right? You start your day on a high note, and then you see some of the travesties that are happening. The biggest one for me recently, obviously amongst our team, we try to stay abreast of everything going on, but was the reported losses for Organigram. I don't get it.
Insane.
I don't get it. I actually, coincidentally, I was talking to our guest today. So Jazz Samra will be joining us. I was talking, we've built this beautiful relationship. He's become a friend. And we talk quite often now. And we were on the phone last night just chatting and mentioned something about Organigram. And Jazz is like, at what point do you say enough's enough? Like, I can't see, if you're losing that much money, what is the path to not only profitability, but break even? I mean, are you counting on Europe? I can tell you, Europe ain't the solution if you're losing this much money. And when you break it down to the margins across SKUs, the amount of time for recovery, even if you were in every single dispensary, the margins are not that big to recover that amount of money. I'm sure Rob McPherson probably has something to say about this, but
was it a 232% increase in loss year over year? Was that the number?
Something like that. It was either 230 or 207, regardless of what it is. I mean, if you're losing that much money, we know that there's a lot of other factors that affect it, but still, you're running a business. And at the end of the day, if you're losing $1 million even a year, I can't see your shareholders being overly happy. And it's unfortunate. I've been to Organigram. They were one of our first customers over at Ample Organics. Great people. And they have a lot of great products. As far as the corporate cannabis goes and what people like to qualify as corporate cannabis, they do pump out some decent products. And it's unfortunate, right? It's completely unfortunate to see that, a company of this magnitude is losing this much money. But typically, that is what we see. It's the larger companies reporting these huge losses.
So I'm looking here, and it looks like for Q2, it was a $27.1 million loss. So that's a 262% increase from $7.5 million the same quarter last year. What's interesting to me here is the explanation, or what I don't like to use the word blame, but for all intent and purpose, that seems to be what it is. It says lower unrealized gain on changes in the fair value of biological assets and change in fair value of derivative liabilities.
What the fuck does that even mean? Can I be the first to just ask that? I mean, I joked in our Slack channel and I said, yeah, that's, pumping up the value of your biological assets, and then the realization that, they're not worth that much. We know what clones in plants and those in vegetative versus flower state are worth when it comes to that. We understand what bulk product is worth when it's sitting in an air quote vault. Those aren't allowed anymore or needed anymore. But there's a lot of smart people that sit on these boards and that run these companies at the C-suite and executive levels. To me, that's not good enough. But again, I'm not trying to get hard on Organigram by any means. I'm just, They're a dominant player in this industry. They've been around a long time. There's been a lot of movement with the company, and that's huge. So what is the future for an Organigram? When you see that amount of loss, how do you recover? How do you come out of a hole how do you come out of a hole of 10 to 15 million dollars deep, let alone, 200 million?
Yeah, it's a shame too. I hope things work out for them because I mean, of all the big corporate cannabis brands, I think Organigram's probably up there with one of my favorites. I mean, from their messaging,
Aurora,
and from
some of the other ones.
Yeah, they've done a lot for the industry, and Organigram's done some big pushes with what was it?
Oh, they've challenged the regs. And then
exactly.
their drops. I forget what they were, but there's a place obviously for new product and innovation, and I don't know. It's so tough, right? Like if we, across our companies, if we ever started losing that kind of money, or losing money, period, I'm not okay with that. Right. And thank God we're some wood, like we're in the black still. And we'll do, but we're not, we're not moving cannabis product industry. I bet if we were, we'd probably be losing some money. But anyways,
yeah, they weren't the only one too to report some big losses.
Oh God, no!
It looks like
it's consistent.
Auxley also supported.
Auxley,
provided some pretty bad.
Hugo Alves and team over there, they've seen some hardships.
Yeah, it looks like no brand's unaffected at this point. With
well, it makes you wonder, right? Like, does it make sense to be? The early days, everyone was talking about vertically integrated, right? You remember the sales calls that our team would come out of at Ample, and they're going to be fully integrated, and they're going to need to use this service, and they're going to do this. And, at this point in time, it makes you wonder, does it make sense? Because now, they're very specialized parts of your supply chain and your business, right? So grow cannabis, get it to a flower state, bulk, fresh, frozen, whatever. And then have another company that's super dialed in to process it potentially. I don't know. And then in the future, if one of those companies are struggling, maybe then you acquire that company rather than going, we're going to fully build it out. We're going to bring in all our extraction equipment and do everything in-house. I don't know. Be happy to hear what those that are in the industry still doing it, right? Trying to make sense of how to become profitability. What is that path to profitability? I don't know. Speaking of brands, I've been on the hunt lately, and we're going to need our community's help with this. So I'm a nostalgic type of guy, right? I love the OG legacy strains. And I think probably because of just that nostalgic reasoning, for no other reason that I can remember the effects, the taste, anything about them, but could certainly use our community's help. If you know of a brand that is producing the likes of Northern Lights, Maui Wowie, White Widow, White Rhino, these old OG legacy strains, comment which brand is doing it right, and I will personally go on a hunt to find these products. I love the old ones, right? I do know, although I haven't had a chance to try it, Johnny Chronic has an Acapulco Gold. I definitely want to try that. So again, I'm in, population 70,000, 60,000, something like that. So we don't have the largest selection, although we do have 5 or 6 retail locations. And I know I can go to OCS. I get caught up in the day. I forgot to order something. And I have seen, I believe at Station House has a couple OG legacy type strains, maybe in the Widow category, somewhere in there. Maybe Maui Wowie, but I'd love to hear from anyone. Comment, tag the brand. I will personally go out of my way to find it.
What is it about those OG strains that makes it different for you?
For me, I think it's just could the original cultivar be bastardized? Potentially. But for me, it's just that nostalgic feeling of it's what I cut my teeth on, right? It's my first, foray into cannabis. It was, those earlier days back in the, early 90s. That's what it was available. And kind of a throwback to obviously Northern Lights and Acapulco Gold and those ones. They go back to the 70s and the 60s. Tie Stick and, some of these other ones. But for me, it's just that nostalgia. I find there's so many strains available now that people are just naming them whatever they want. They
Be
could
careful.
across the lineage.
We shouldn't say strain too much. Ryan Lee's gonna
Ryan Lee's
gonna gut us for that.
I know, Ryan. I do apologize. It's just common
it's
place in language. I think we struggle. Remember when we were developing the software and doing some work with Ample, it was consistently changing the type and the strain to call to like what makes the most sense. So you have to kind of find this common ground that is most accepted across the industry that they can relate. But again, when you've got newcomers just potentially stepping foot into the industry, there has to be some sort of line they can draw to understand this is Northern Lights or Acapulco Gold or something like that. So strain, cultivar, call it what you will. I'll be corrected. Ryan, when you finally do get on, you can just school me the hell out of this because I know. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. For me, it's just, it's a throwback. It's a throwback. And I think that, the demographic that attaches themselves to those, they might understand. So they're probably my age, maybe a little bit older, maybe just a little bit younger. But I do recall White Widow. And White Widow was, as you would expect, frosty as fuck. And I even tried to grow it once. I couldn't get the frost to come out of it. Those trichomes, the glandular heads, they just weren't popping for me. It was probably my process. If I had coaxed it maybe over time, maybe. But anyways.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever lucky enough to try any of those strains when I was younger, because I'm talking pre-legalization. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but the stuff we used to get was just whatever the dealer had in his bag, and it was probably just, it's just all barnweed. I don't know. Who knows? But
there was that. I mean, early days, it was, you weren't necessarily asking what it was, but when you knew what it was, you would then, it's again, just like a brand, it's attaching something in the mind to, oh, I liked that. I want to try it again. Which, it's kind of the joke about what we have with sampling, right? Black tubes with nothing on it. You get 6, 7 of those. You have no idea what the hell you're trying. At that point, it's just weed, folks. It's weed. No way to go and repeat buy it or find it again. It's weed.
Yep.
What else is new? Wes, what have you been watching? Anything good? You need to get me onto something.
I haven't been watching much TV lately, actually. There's a bunch going on. Google and OpenAI are at it again with their AI war on AI, or not war on AI, the war of AI, I guess is what it is. They both kind of had events or announcements this week on their new tools. So GPT-4 is getting a big upgrade, and so
I just saw it. It's fast as hell now.
GPT-4o is
the 4o
is unreal, and the voice. If you interacted with it with your voice yet?
No,
it's fucking nuts. So it's just think of it. I'm not going to say Alexa just because it's in the background, but think of an Amazon device, but
right,
and conversing with it like that, but doing what that device always could have been, right? A true natural conversation with a true AI assistant, rather than just it taking 6 seconds to utter something back to you.
Wow,
this is a true two-way thing. And I saw some great videos online of they were doing a demo where they were basically had this child in the room and they were tutoring, using the AI to tutor the child. So they said, I have this kid here. He's got an iPad with these images. I want you to tutor him. I don't want you to provide him the answers or anything. I want you to guide him through to the correct answer so that he gets it for himself. And it's like this triangle on the screen, and the AI is going, okay, I want you to identify the hypotenuse on this triangle. And like he's circling stuff on the screen. The AI is going, very good. Now, how would you find this? And oh my God, it's
what
unbelievable. Yeah, it's progressing extremely quickly and at a scary rate, but a very exciting rate. I mean, Google Gemini stuff is also coming along fairly well. It looks like it's all getting implemented into Google Drive and Google Workspace. So you'll be able to be in Excel, be in Word or Google Docs and stuff like that.
Oh my God. I'm starting to feel like my parents. There's gonna be a massive separation of not understanding tech. When I was younger, it was resetting the VCR. Right? Yeah, it was that simple.
For me, it was.
Now it's going to be, oh damn.
For me, it was blowing into my Super Nintendo cartridges. Is what it was to get them to work.
Yeah. Well, you can thank the generations before you, because we used to blow into the Atari cartridges.
Yeah, exactly.
They never worked, man. They never worked. Did you know? So I caught this. I know you're not as big of a fan and really into Seinfeld. I had a startling discovery the other day. I saw Jerry Seinfeld giving a speech to Duke. It was Duke graduation.
Yep.
He's 70 years old, man. 70.
I know.
I joked with Slater. Slater and I, as you know, are huge Seinfeld fans, and we almost exclusively speak in Seinfeld quotes. But I told Slater that, and he's like, "No, I didn't know that. I didn't realize. Like, that's actually crazy." And I joked and said he's probably drinking that baby blood out of Hollywood or something. But it's a joke, people. It's a joke. It's a joke. But yeah, 70 years old. Like, I had no idea. So
The guy looks pretty good for 70.
he looks good. He's still witty, you know. And I wonder if maybe, you know, it's a comedian thing, right? You're always spinning something in your head. I don't know. But I was
It's the laughter. It's the laughter piece, right? You're chemically different at that point. If you're laughing all the time, if you're funny, I don't know, maybe it's, you know.
Could be, but yeah, blown away. 70 years old. I did catch his Netflix movie. I'm forgetting what it's called now. I just lost it. Post something, and it was the battle of Kellogg and Post cereals in the day of trying to move to a toaster pastry. Jim Gaffigan's in it. It's star-studded. Horrible ratings, and I'm like, oh boy, you know, I move into these now. I understand why it had horrible ratings, because it's very Seinfeld-ish, right? So it's his wit, his sense of humor for the most part. It's satirical in a lot of cases. And if you're not familiar with Seinfeld and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to check out this Netflix movie, you will be disappointed. But if you're a Seinfeld fan and understand that type of humor, then you can relate. I still don't give it high ratings, but it's nice to see that he's still doing something. I mean, I loved Comedian in Cars, or Coffee. What was it?
Comedians in Cars. No, it's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, I think is the full title.
Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. All right. We're going to do Cannabis in Cars Getting Cannabis.
We'll work on the name, but yeah.
We'll have to figure it out for sure. Anything interesting you've seen that we should discuss before inviting Jazz in? I just love that name too, by the way, Jazz.
Yeah,
I want to find out where that comes from.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I want to do one quick product call out, just because I've had these.
Let's do it.
I've been taking these for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks now, because I've had a little pack of them and I wanted to give them time before I mentioned them, just to make sure, you know, they're a new type of product for me and fairly consistent. So I wanted to shout them out because they've been great. These Spark Moon Rocks by Aspire.
Oh, right. Yeah. You
so they are just little tablets, and I guess they're in the edible category, but just little tablets, not very much taste to them. And you just pop them. They're 10 milligrams each, which is nice. And you can get packs of 15 or 20. And I just had, you know, really good experience with them over the last couple of weeks. I take one in the evening, maybe about an hour before bed. And they're fairly delayed fuse. They take a good, hour to actually kick in, which I don't mind, because I know that now. So I know it's an hour. I know exactly where I'm going to be. And they've just been extremely consistent. And for the price of them, I think it was like $18 for this pack that I got. And there was a ton of pills in there, and they lasted me for a while. So yeah, I just thought I'd shout them out quick. They were Moon Rocks, Spark Moon Rocks by Aspire.
When I hear Moon Rocks, I'm thinking two different things. One is the nostalgic Moon Rocks, right? Like, and which were pop rocks, but there was brands called Moon Rocks. And then the other one was cannabis bud dipped in distillate, and then rolled in keef, Moon Rocks. I love the look of those things. I don't think you see them. Are they even allowed on? Wow, I'm gonna have to research that now. I don't even know if they're in our industry in Canada.
Mr. Harrison Jordan might have the legal authority on that. I don't know.
I had a good chat with him yesterday. I'm looking forward to inviting him on and shooting the shit over some of the legalities within the cannabis industry. I actually had a really odd ponder that I'm not going to put out there right now, that we need to ask him, because I think I found a loophole in the marketing regs, and I have not mentioned this to you or the team yet. But if we can pull it off, it's going to be pretty fucking exciting, and there's nothing Health Canada will be able to do about it. But we're going to need to ask Harrison, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to put our logo on the side of a SpaceX rocket, if that's what you're thinking. Just
No, not us. Not us. No, it's a cannabis brand. It's for educational purposes, Wes.
Yeah.
We're gonna stick with that for educational purposes. Much like this show, Health Canada, this is all for educational purposes. Anyways, let's let's take a break. And when we get back, we'll invite Jazz in. And like, dude is a serial entrepreneur. Like, he's doing a lot of stuff. And typically when we see a lot of things going on, something's failing. Like, not everything can be where it needs to be. Not with Jazz. I think he sleeps maybe 3 hours a night. I don't know how he's doing it. But when we get back, Jazz Samra, right after this break.
Hey friends, guess what? It's almost t-shirt season. You ready? You should be rocking your favorite brand. Head on over to thehighflyer.ca and check out all the licensed cannabis brand swag that we've got available. From Moto to Victoria Cannabis Company, Smoker Farms, Royal Harvest, the list goes on. And there's more coming on every single week. Check it out, add it to your cart, and be prepped. Sun's out, guns out.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Jazz Samra. Jazz, how you doing? I want to go through your list of everything because there's a lot, man. Okay, so let's start with...
We only have a couple hours.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got Sativa Bliss, we've got Dank reviews, we've got the Dope Box, and, I mean, it's right in front of our faces, Astro Boyz.
An Astro Boy.
Right?
Yeah.
Serial entrepreneur.
Serial entrepreneur, which is better than being a serial killer. Right, son?
Well, yeah, I would say, yeah, that's definitely true.
At least serial something, you might as well be an entrepreneur.
For sure. Well, congrats on that. We're going to get into telling your story and why you found yourself in this crazy industry. But, you know, over the last, I don't know, couple months, we've become close. Like, we talk and chat quite often, you know, myself keeping an eye, and Wes and our team, we keep an eye on the industry and what's going on. And I think the first, obviously we knew about Sativa Bliss and, you know, your retail locations. We can see that that's out there. And the one for us, we saw Dank reviews and then the Dope Box following shortly after. And for myself, I think I had even made a comment somewhere, is that at first, there's always a certain amount of skepticism, right? Which I think the vast majority of individuals will look at. And, you know, and I reached right out immediately, and I'm like, I'm not going to make my decisions based on what everyone else sees or what we see even. So let's have lunch. Let's figure this out. Tell us about it. But let's go back. Let's go back first, because I think, you know, some individuals, they're chastised in some cases if they don't come from this legacy cannabis market. And what are you doing in the cannabis industry? You're not legacy. And we think that's a bunch of bullshit, right? We certainly do. Even though the show's called Legacies, there is still a story to tell behind every legacy.
I grew up in Vancouver. That's going to be a check mark, right?
There you go. There's a check. BC Bud, check one.
And up from India. So, I think it originally came from India as well, too. So
absolutely. There you go. Right. We can draw lines. So, you know, we do know about this. Wes and I, at least, is, you know, you're a BC boy originally. You know, but then made your way to Ontario and then back to BC. BC called you back, and you went back to study what? That's where you went to school for your formal education.
Criminology and law, mostly studied there at BC, and then ended up starting a business prior to even graduating. I wanted to become a lawyer, actually. And I realized that quickly after I started a business, I didn't really want to become a lawyer. And
What was it that made you determine that I really don't want to be a lawyer?
Well, actually, it was actually dealing with lawyers. We actually, the first business we started was like a Yellow Pages type of directory for the Indian community out in BC. And you know how Yellow Pages is always sorted into like categories of accountants and automotive shop. Well, we had a bunch of lawyers in there as well too. And a lot of the lawyers seemed to be like some of the most miserable people. They're really cheap. They couldn't even afford the couple $100 for an ad, and like really weren't really happy in life. And I was like, "This is my future. I'm gonna become one of these guys." And I was like, "No, it can't be. Not gonna happen." And it turned out not.
Yeah, obviously we know not all lawyers are created equal, and some enjoy their jobs. We were actually chatting with Harrison yesterday. Great individual, and obviously the ones, you know, the standouts within our community and industry, they do so much good for us.
But, I have a lot of respect for the ones that are good. My daughter.
But we're glad you didn't become a lawyer, because now you're doing all these cool things.
That's it. Yeah. So I got my daughter becoming a lawyer.
There you go.
So we'll make sure that she doesn't catch that miserable part that you're talking about in the earlier. So you know, we went through that. You returned to BC, and I think it was, I don't know where I caught it. I either read somewhere, or maybe it was another interview or something that was going on, or you're on someone's podcast. But I think your original experience with cannabis was into your 20s at a wedding or something like that.
I think it was 24 years old was the first time we tried cannabis. And I think even growing up in BC, that was the first time I ever saw cannabis that I can remember in my life. And it was just somebody that had a joint, and we were just standing outside the house where my friend was getting married, and just had a couple of puffs and went back into the house. And all I can remember was just like giggling and laughing. It was a lot of fun. But that was, literally, that was the end of it. That was one and done on time until maybe into my 30s. Once or twice at a party, would have had a puff here and there. And it wasn't until I actually got into the industry that I actually tried it many more times.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, you don't need to be labeled a pothead or a stoner or anyone to understand the plant, to understand, you know, what value it brings to individuals, right? Because there's a lot of value, especially within the medical space, right? And that's where, obviously, we saw in Canada, that's where they had originally rolled it out. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. You've spent, you know, a stint in real estate. I too was there, and we've joked about that, about choosing clients, right? Being very choosy and careful of who to work with at times. And it's no different than what we do in the cannabis space, right? But then at what point, tell us about Sativa Bliss and how that came about.
So Sativa Bliss came about, it was actually never my intention to get into retail. I had originally wanted to get into the LP side of the world, and it was CBD that got me into the cannabis industry. A few people introduced it to me. They told me about all the benefits of it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Let's develop a CBD company that we can actually start making products in the future and whatnot. And we tried to start a company together with a group of people. We actually did a plant out in Portland, Oregon, an extraction plant for hemp. We were on the verge of creating an LP out in Quebec as well too. And then all of a sudden, like, COVID came and like literally shattered our plant. COVID was hard because we had leases signed, we had employees hired, and every time the government was like, oh, it's another 3 more weeks of lockdowns. And I'd be like, okay, I can manage 3 weeks. And then it was another 3 weeks, and then another 3. And all of a sudden, it's like 2 years go by, and these 3 weeks haven't come by. And literally was forced to shut down the company, and was looking for other opportunities. That is, real estate was also dead during that time. And once you kind of leave an industry, you really don't want to go back to it either as well. And your heart's not going to be in it the same way. So I was like, let's see what we can do. And back then, you needed to get a location in order to apply for license. And I tried to get locations, and it was like so hard. So hard. And I happened to have a friend in Kitchener that had the unit that I'm in right now. He owned the building, and he's like, Taz, I have a unit available. Apply for it. If you get the license, you can take over this unit and continue from there. And that was it. It started with that one location in about June 2020 is when we.
So Jazz, but you mentioned it was hard. So I remember the early days, you know, as it was one dealing with the municipality and, you know, applying and getting approval. But in the early days, landlords, I mean, if you're going that route and not buying a space, right, buying a building or buying a retail location, what was that like? You know, you're approaching, because you were in real estate, right? So
most landlords didn't want cannabis there, and the locations that were good, there was those bidding wars on these locations. Companies were paying double the rent and all these types of things, and I was like, I can't afford to get involved in stuff like that. I've never been the type that says you got to operate out of FOMO. I've been burnt in my life by trying to get greedy and operating out of FOMO. So it's just like, patience is the way to go. I was lucky that I managed, because I had real estate experience, that by the time the first location opened, I already had like 4 other leases secured.
Oh,
I was able to open up like 4 or 5 stores within the first year of doing business, and we had to do it during COVID. It wasn't allowed.
Which actually worked out decently for you, right? Because I remember hearing this story. Yeah,
because I went in over my head a little bit with finances and whatnot. And we were able to like open up stores with curbside pickup. Essentially get the store license with security cameras and just put a big curtain in the front and be able to like operate the stores while construction was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, so paint's drying behind the curtain and drywall mud and everything's still going up, but you're dishing out cannabis out the front door. So yeah, and having those deadlines, as you know, you set your own personal, but the deadlines around, you know, when you're fully operational for inspection without the days of COVID, I mean, right? Much more pressure, you know, in comparison, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you open, so when was that? When was the first Sativa Bliss then? That was in Kitchener in what year?
Kitchener 2021, January. First week of January we opened, and then in March we opened the Guelph location. Then in April we opened the Belleville location, and then in the end of May we opened St. Catharines location.
So
I didn't even get a chance to actually work in the stores or enjoy it. I would just get it started and like I'm out doing this.
Well, and that's my question. So my question would be, typically in most cases, you know, Sativa Bliss isn't franchised. You and company hold those, but you would want to see some success. Hey, this is working, and then do it. There's no way that you could have seen success from Kitchener in that short amount of time when you're out signing leases again. So you're going all in. You're like,
well, yeah,
I've got leases. I'm building these out.
Yeah, I know that like the one location wasn't going to be enough, and if you're to find locations, go for it. And then I had to get those locations opened up as ASAP because the leases, the rents had already started on them. You want to get the revenue started as soon as possible to pay for the rent.
Isn't it so? I find that when I speak to individuals, family, friends outside the industry, they understand it a little bit now. But in the earlier days, they didn't understand like so much commitment and investment before you even got approval, whether that was retail or as an LP. And people are like boggled. Oh my God, you got to spend so much.
It wasn't even spending so much. I had to put my life on the line because every lease was personal guarantee against my houses. And I didn't have like the advantages of some of these big corporate guys have. Millions of dollars in the bank account or some collateral that way, but people were asking 6 months upfront rent and, you know, personal guarantee on every property. Oh my!
Yeah, that's rough.
I signed all the leases and then transferred the properties to my wife's name. Ready?
Yeah, you've worked real estate. That's what we used to do, you know, flipping houses back in the day. I started in my 20s, right? First investment property when I was 20 years old. And we learned quick that you move the titles around as quickly as possible so the banks don't see them all. So that's obvious. No, that's great. But I mean, at what point, because I think you, in the earlier days when you're on that spree of opening stores, one of them, I think you had chose to shut down. Is that correct? Because I think at one point you had 5 or 6 and then you.
Yeah, actually recently we shut down the Guelph location. And, in the hindsight, we never know how the industry was going to turn out, right? So you always think you have an amazing location. And back then, AGCO didn't have their map of the statuses of all the stores. You went in blind, and they took 8-10 months to approve your application. You think you're going to be the only one, and you realize everybody else is in that same corner.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You thought you were going to be one, and there's like 6-7 stores within 2-minute walking distance of you. And so yeah, I wish I didn't take that location. I actually got offered the day I signed the lease. There was like 15 companies trying to get that location. I made friends with a real estate agent, and he gave me a little bit of special preference with a landlord to represent me. And a week later, I got offered. Back then, it was like a group from Meta. Like, we'll give you $300,000 and give you 2% royalties for the next 3 years on that location, and we'll just transfer the lease over to us. And I was like, holy shit! What do I was like, now I was like thinking, oh my God, I could have did that. But back then, you're like, what do I have here? That because I'm new to this industry, I don't even know much about it. But do I have a location is just like has the potential for something. So I turned that
Jess,
down.
what was that kind of a decision point with that store closing? Was it, did you know fairly immediately that we're going to have to shut this down as soon as possible, or was there a period that you tried to make it work, or what was that decision point when you went, this is not going to work?
You make it work for a few years, and then after a while, you're like, there's only so much you can do. You can change your pricing around, your menu around. But when there's just like so many stores in one area, it's really difficult to do that, especially when you have some of the bigger corporate value chains that are right around the corner. You can never compete with their pricing as well too.
Yeah, that's why we need power in numbers, and obviously supporting the independent stores is very important. But you've managed to gain this very valuable insight into what it takes to operate in the industry, as from the retail levels perspective, especially, which I'm assuming once we get to it is where Dank Reviews and the Dope Box was born. But during those days of choosing locations, what is, if you can culminate everything for success into one for retail, what is the most important aspect? Is it location? Is it pricing? Is it promotion? What is it?
You can say location 100 times, and then the 101 will be something else. It's all location. It's all location.
Yeah, right.
If you don't have, I know so many amazing store operators, and the same things that they apply, the same menu, the same pricing, where it's totally different depending on location. It's the number one factor. I know people that are horrible operators that look like geniuses just because they have a good location and there's people coming into the door. You can have the worst store, the worst experience. There's no display cabinets. There's nothing there. And then when you have the great location and you have people, 300-400 people coming into your store every day, and it's not hard. Cash flow is there. You can order whatever you want. It's on OCS. And it's not like there's no secrets to the business. If I know a good operator and they know their weed better than me, all I got to do is look on their online menu. I know what's good. And just order the stuff they got, right? Like,
right.
It's not like a chef who's got a secret recipe that's creating great food at a restaurant. It's totally different. We're all buying, actually, from the same place, the same products at the same price.
Mm-hmm. So then bringing that back to location, that does make sense then. So if you've got, a few stores within a certain area of any city, and I've seen this in Woodstock anyways, right? Where, the competition in retail, they don't want to carry all the same products because they want to, shop select and show up at different stores. Is that true with Sativa Bliss? Like, are you very selective, or do you go, oh, well, these products sell hot in these other stores, maybe we should be carrying them?
We do try to curate for the local market. We stay very in touch with our managers. We have like an OCS wish list of each store. Whenever somebody asks for a product, 98% of the time we will bring that product in, even if it's for one customer. And one customer says, bring this in and I'll be your customer. We're like, no problem. We'll have it here next week.
Do you see a lot of loyalty in customer repeat buying? Not meaning the customer is showing up at your store, meaning they find a certain product they love, they just continue to repeat purchase that product?
Very few products.
It's interesting.
Name off the top of my head: Pink Kush, your Sunflower Pink Kush,
right?
The WAPA,
right? Yeah, WAPA. yeah.
And after that, I gotta start thinking pretty hard. GMO.
So I think for me, pearls are definitely one of those. I usually always have a bottle of pearls on hand. That's definitely one for me.
But I think that's a definite contrast, because we always try to draw these lines back to alcohol or the bev-alc space and say, well, the marketing's different and the rules and the regulations are different, and distribution is different, and you're allowed so many other things. And one of the things that I think we always forget is that obviously the bev-alc space has changed, and there's a lot of SKUs now, right? And you remember when vodka sodas became big, and everyone's got these new, low calorie, no sugar vodka sodas, and the categories have changed slightly. But for the most part, individuals that stick to a certain rye or whiskey or bourbon or vodka or gin, they buy those those, and that's typically what they have. It's almost a shelf staple in their house. They have to have
I'm
that.
like that.
Where
I'm like that.
right,
I mean,
but not in
the-
cannabis.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much. It's almost, and even for someone like myself, in cannabis for 30 plus years, and even there's a certain loyalty with certain brands that I have. Especially our brand partners. Obviously, I'm a big advertising guy, right? You're going to have a certain brand partner. You got to support them. But there's so much differentiation, so many different SKUs and different brands available. You almost want to try them all, right? So I wonder, does that play a factor?
I never really compare cannabis to alcohol per se. I compare it more to wine. I think the wine people act more like the cannabis consumer. Where I prefer wine. My wife prefers wine. I have lots of wine friends. They're always trying new wines, different regions, different types, different years. They match it with different types of food that they're eating.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly loyal to any particular wine for a long period of time.
Right.
Their batches change.
That makes sense.
My taste changes a little bit. And at the beginning, you buy, the $9 bottles, and then you graduate to the $12 and then $16, and eventually you get.
And then you're having wine parties and people showing up with $100 bottles, and you're like, "Well, I brought this $8 bottle."
Well, you're always experimenting and trying different ones all the time. So I think cannabis is more like wine than actual like harder alcohol. Harder alcohol, I know if I go to the store, I'm gonna buy my Black Label, like they use. Of the world, right into the party box.
Right. Yeah. That's a good comparison. Yeah. I like comparing it to wine. That makes sense.
And it should be sold the same way, I think. It should be sold.
Yeah. Definitely. So tell us a little bit about Dank reviews, and I want to know the pros and the cons from what the feedback you've heard, not from the individuals that are doing the reviews. We'll get into the disclaimer that I have signed up for Dank reviews so that I could go through this and we could chat about it so I could understand nuts and bolts, right? I wanted to understand everything about it. But when we first saw it come up, we saw, man, look at the roster of individuals signed up to review. What insight did you gain as a retailer operating in this space to help formulate what Dank reviews should be?
Well, I've always been the type that whenever I get involved in the industry, I want to try to learn it as much as possible. One of the first things that I did was start attending a couple of different events, making relationships with other retailers. And that was the most beneficial thing, because me being a new person to retail, I've never done a retail business in my life. I've done many different types of businesses, but never have I done retail. Never have I done cannabis. And I'm the first to admit I don't know the inside and outs of the industry. I'm not from the legacy side, but that's not going to stop me from being in this industry. So talking to other friends and just building those relationships, retailers started saying, hey, this is a good thing. We should be talking to each other and learning from each other. And I created something called VIP Media Group. I started hosting events, primarily only for retail store owners and managers just to get together. There was good buy-in. We've had like 500-600 people show up at our events.
Wow.
And they created a group chat on WhatsApp. It's very informal, but we have like close to 400 stores across Ontario represented in our WhatsApp group chat. And every day people are messaging in there saying how much they appreciate just the feedback that each other are willing to give and help share to see each other become successful. So I found that really amazing part of the community. It wasn't like, oh, you're my competition, I'm gonna my cards to the chest. People want to see,
which there still are. There's still some that are very much like that. But
some people are, but for the vast majority of the people that I come across and have built relationships, people want to help others succeed, right? And then so just making friends with retailers, then starting to understand the problems with bud tenders. They can't recommend products the way it would. There's too many SKUs in the market. I'm an observer in my stores. I see bud tenders always referring to the same old thing. Why are you only selling that? That's the only thing I tried. I don't know what's good. I don't know what else is good. Right. I don't know what's in the you can't tell anything. All I know is there's a THC percentage there, but if I haven't tried it, how can I recommend it? And, the bartenders aren't professionally trained salespeople either. Many of them are just doing like a retail job, and very few have actually taken any professional training on sales and customer service and whatnot. So I don't want to disparage that and say, hey, you're not doing a great job, but that's the limitations of
right.
have to work with you.
Well, because they understand cannabis, and then they get their can sell, and now they're forced into this world of retail and making product recommendations and helping find a good product. Yeah.
And then every day we got LP reps coming to the store and saying, "Oh, buy my weed. When you shop, it's the best. My weed is the best. This guy, it is weed the best." And I understand their position, right? Their job is to sell the weed. And, nobody ever says their baby's ugly, right? So it's your job, right? You have to. So go ahead. Okay, tell me your weed is good, but I can't trust you anymore. If I have 100 people coming in saying it's the best, they can't all be the best, right?
Right.
And so we need a system to actually start analyzing these things and looked into other industries. I saw a bunch of reviews things on Reddit and whatnot that we started looking at, and then that one kind of became toxic as well. I heard LP reps were being paid to bash other brands and this and that.
Oh man,
to get market share. I'm like, that's not cool. There's no integrity in that either. I started looking in other industries, and actually the wine industry got my attention. And it was like, how when I buy my wine, I always, even though I don't know a ton about wine, I look at this little label. Sometimes got a score, 90, 91, 92, kind of scores on them. And that actually influences my buying many times. Can we do that with weed? And I just talked to a lot of people. They said, yeah, you can do that with weed. So let's start reviewing products, but let's make them blind so we don't know what it is. And let's start attaching some sort of scores to them and maybe promoting the scores. And the best people to do the reviews should be people that come from the industry. So let's make it like an industry endorsement almost of a product. And let's not just have one person's opinion, because what you like and I like and what
it's very subjective.
Could be very subjective, and that isn't a true representation of a product.
Yeah.
So let's get about 100 people at least to do it, and let's see what the average is about that. And then now we have something that we can use as a marketing tool almost. So it's designed to help be a marketing tool for a brand. You can say, here's my feature sheet. This is what the flower is all about. And oh, by the way, don't listen to me that I'm saying my weed is good. We've had it blind reviewed by a whole bunch of people, and they kind of like it. So if they like it, then chances are you and your customer will like it. So that, for me as a store owner, that encourages me to bring product into my store. It helps my budtenders also help sell and recommend products that they necessarily haven't tried. And unfortunately, they don't get to try a lot of the higher end products all the time.
Oh, right.
On their budgets and base deals. And now they get a chance to actually recommend a product, not based on their personal opinion, based on an industry type of opinion. Right? And it makes it easier for consumers. When they get overwhelmed, they're like, oh my God, there's all these products in the market. Decide what's good, what's not. And especially all you have to do is look at a label. There's really no brand recognition or brand equity out there saying I can guarantee this brand is going to be good, except for there's a couple of them in the luxury market that have that.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a difficult thing for anybody new, that you stand out in the field of
Well, I think you mentioned it, and it is when done properly. And I think, now that I've been through it, I've received product, I've gone through the system and reviewed it, I scanned the QR, and I'll talk about that. But it is a marketing tool, right? And that's where I think brands need to, brands, especially LPs, brands, we'll just call them brands. When we have conversations, they're like, well, we can't market, we can't, and they just kind of give up. And, we're at the high flyer side of what we do, that's our brains are consistently going and the wheels are spinning. And how can we come up with something new and creative that is, one, allowed, right, under the regulations, but two, it's going to help these brands. And I think at the end of the day, one, it's solving a multitude of problems, right? So one is the product recommendations. and helping, your bud tenders understand what makes sense. Drawing that line back to wine I like, but also brands that do partake in this Dank review, they now have something to leverage to say, when I'm looking for distribution, by the way, it was blind reviewed by at least 100 people, because you don't even put out your scorecards until you have at least 100 back. So we've gotten this review. Here it is, right? It could be an 85 all the way up to a 95. If they score 100, you make sure you let me know which one's 100, but all the way up to, say, 100. And if I'm a retailer, and I'm not a retailer, but if I'm a retailer, I'm going to go, wait, so this was blind reviewed and it scored 92 out of 100 across 100 different people reviewing it. Yeah, I'll put that in stock. And not only would I put it in stock, and I'm sure you do this, but I would put on display Dank reviewed. Here's all the information, and this is the score. I'd put it right on the shelf with the product.
Yeah, I do that. I have it on my menu screen that special price tags made for those products. And like when you're buying like on OCS, oh my God, you got 5,000 products to choose from. You got a window of a few hours, and there's
what do you mean? A window of a few hours? What's that?
So
this is something new I'm not aware of. Are you allowed to talk about this?
Where we get it's typically our order window is like from 7 a.m. to 12:30 once a week is when you can submit your order.
Oh.
And so it has to be submitted by 12:30. Otherwise, you got to wait till next week.
You're not getting it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can build my cart during the week.
Right.
But it doesn't tell us what's actually available for us until in our window.
Oh my
order
God.
window.
So you may have all these plans and preparations based on this customer asked for this bud tender said we got to get this, fill a cart, window of opportunity opens, and some of those products aren't even available?
Aren't available. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
That is crazy.
Because there's OCS is in a position where they have to carry so many items. And there could have been 100 cases of something on a Thursday that was available. But my order date is Friday. And like it's my turn, I can look at it. Oh, Thursday. Wait, I'm going to order this product. And then Friday I go and say, sorry, not available.
Oh, man. And I do get it from OCS's side. I mean, they need to be as efficient as possible. And when you're dealing with that many SKUs, it can't be easy.
It's not easy.
But wow. And then you're dealing with, you've got general listings versus your flow through items. What's available, not available? Is it in stock? Man, that's tough.
It's a challenge. So, to be in the retailer field, it's a definite challenge. And you also have the issues where you order something, it's a regular SKU of yours, but it's not in stock. And then you order something else to replace it. And now you're committed to a new thing. And that thing that you like 3 weeks later, something you don't even know about it. And you're like, oh, shit, now what do I?
Yeah. So just to add a little more injury to insult here, we're just, we talk about the world of retail and how difficult it is to operate. Welcome to Ontario, right? Is one more thing, which they always say, if you're not in Ontario, you're nowhere, which I still don't know about that when it comes to brand distribution. Probably close to it, but I see the obvious challenges as to why I wouldn't want to be in Ontario.
Ontario is the biggest market, but like it's the toughest market to be.
Yeah.
I think you got to be really good. I know in certain provinces, some brands, it's a lot easier. For example, Quebec, you got to Quebec, you sell to the government, you get 100% distribution. You don't need any sales reps. So really,
right.
No marketing.
What would you change, Jazz, if you could change one thing about the Ontario market? Maybe it's from the OCS perspective. What's that one big change you think would help the most?
One big change under who's your jurisdiction? OCS?
Under the OCS side, let's say. What big change could they make that would alleviate a lot of pain for you and the rest of the retailers in Ontario?
I think one big change that would really help us a lot would be LPs having control over their MSRP. I think as like I'm starting a brand as well too, I think it's really important when you actually are building a brand, you want to have control of that brand all the way from your supply chain, production, distribution, and how you speak to the end consumers of that brand. And I think that's where brands are losing control of their brand. They don't know who's carrying it, at what price points. You have like For example, a premium brand that sells for $40, $42 at my store, and the wholesale cost is like $28, and another value store selling that product $29.
Mm.
And it's not like there's any special deal or this and that, but maybe they got turned down for a data deal or whatnot. Then they're like, we're just going to kill your brand. We're going to bring it in and we're going to sell it for $1. All the other stores will stop carrying it. And it's horrible.
Wow.
Right.
It's almost, that's what you see there is almost, and I wanted to ask you this question specifically. Obviously, now that you're in the world of retail, you understand what a loss leader is, right? Going back to the days of Ed Mervish, I've got a book for you, by the way, that I want you to read. I do need it back because it's very difficult to find copies of this old book. But anyways, Ed Mervish invented the loss leader, right? It was to draw traffic into your store, sell it at a loss, but once they're in your store, they're going to spend other money as well. I don't know if that's so true in cannabis, because I think what happens is they see something at a great price, potentially. They come in, that's all they're buying, and then they're hitting the road. But that's almost inducement, right? Technically, I mean, we could go into a world of pain when it comes to this stuff and inducement. And what is inducement? In-store displays could be inducement. There's a lot of things that surround it. And thank God Health Canada isn't getting crazy about it yet, and hopefully they never do. But are you seeing that across? We know that at these value chains, right? Where they'll do exactly as you just said. You don't want to pay the data deal? Fine, we'll bring your brand in, we'll crush it. That's all it'll be. But do you see effectiveness where, because you obviously need to run promotions, you need to draw individuals into your stores. But is that a game that everyone is playing? Like, are they, they get a popular brand or a popular product, they'll reduce the price so that they can draw the traffic in? Do you see that happening very much?
I see it happening, but honestly, I don't think it works as much as it would work at like an Honest Ed's or another store. Because typically when you go to another store, you go there to do your shopping. And yeah, the butter and the milk might get you there, but you're going to go there and buy more things. But with cannabis, I don't know, if I had to guess, like 90% or more of the people just come in and grab the one thing that they need and they're gone. It's not like they're not building a huge basket worth of.
They're not me, because that's what I do. I'm like, I get there once every couple of weeks and I'm in there for half an hour, right? I'm searching through it. If they're smart enough to have just in-store displays and not paper binders, I'll spend my time, right? And I don't even bother the bud tender. I'm like, just give me time. Let me look around. I have to recall some products, and then out I go with usually a couple $100 worth of product. But I guess that would make sense.
You're definitely the exception to the rule. And you're also part of.
I have been across a lot of different industries.
You're part of the industry. You know the products, and I think you don't approach it the same way as a regular person would approach it.
Someone stopping in on a Friday to grab some pre-rolls for the weekend is completely different. But they may be in a couple more times a week as well.
They are. We have people that come in every day to buy a pre-roll. And I was like, Jack, why don't you just buy a 12-pack? Like, no, I smoke all the 12 in one day then. Right? So I just...
Yeah. Oh, okay. That makes sense. So I personally, as I mentioned, I went through the Dank review. I thought it was fantastic, right? So the way it was set up, scanning a QR code, for those that don't understand what Dank reviews is, it is 100% blind. These product samples show up, they're branded Dank reviews, which I'm assuming you have to repackage into the Dank review bags. And then there's a code and a QR code that is corresponding. You scan it, you're walked through 3 stages, really, which is first, just overall, what is your thoughts and immediate reaction to the product? What is the bud quality, the trichomes, what do the heads look like, etc. Then you get into breaking it and understanding what it's going to look like. Do the aromas come out, etc. Very, very well thoughtful, laid out questions. Moving into the actual experience with the cannabis product. All the while, even when I finished and submitted, I still didn't know who it was. I have a feeling I know who it might be, but that's only because I think I've seen other people posting and doing some stuff on social. But as far as an individual that is in the industry, and I mean with deep roots, I still have no idea which product I sampled. So kudos on that. I think that's very important, that if you're going to do it blind, everyone is subjective. So you need to be careful with that. But I think it is doing brands that want to partake in this, with Dank reviews, it does do them a very good service. So kudos on that. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you. That was the goal. It's like there's a lot of unfair competition between the big brands versus the small guys. And small guys like me and you, if we come out with a product, we can come out with the best products, but we don't have the salespeople and all these other resources. I wanted to give a platform for these small guys to be able to let their products shine in such a place.
And I think that's it's certainly there. And I think, you know, over time we'll see more traction with it, and it'll start to. It's like, you know, as you mentioned, you know, starting a new brand, it's really rolling a boulder up a hill, right? You may have the best boulder, but you've got to get it to the top of the hill, and unfortunately, it's going to take a lot of effort. So having these levers to be able to pull that are affordable as well, I think makes sense. And I think
we made it very cost effective. Well, over 700 reviewers from all across Canada. And when we do a review, we don't just say it's a random review. When people sign up to be a reviewer, they tell us, what do they like to smoke? What do they feel like like to do? So if I have a hash product, I'm able to go into my database and say, who are the 125 people that like to consume?
I remember going through the questionnaire. It was that exactly. It's what is your experience? You know, what type of formats do you prefer? Indicas versus sativas versus hybrids, etc. It's very well thought out. I could just imagine the amount of time it took to put it together. But that's enough about Dank reviews for a second, because now we move into the dope box, which I think is a game changer. And I've said this before. I think it's probably what got us originally talking was I don't play a skeptical role or a skeptic very often. And it wasn't about that with dope box, but at first you see something, and without understanding it, you fear it, air quote fear. It's like snakes and all these other things. I don't know anything about them. But for me, I had to really dig in and go, okay, Jazz. And I sent you a message. I'm like, tell me about dope box. As a matter of fact, let's have lunch. You and Wes and I'll get together, and you can tell me about that and all these other, you know, interesting things you've got going on. Dope box for me, I'll let you explain to the audience what it is.
So dope box came into my head Family Day weekend, long weekend. Usually when there's a long weekend, I get time to think of a new business.
I can't. What's coming out next weekend? Next week.
I've already got a business that's being prepared for next week.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of my ideas just come from talking to people in the industry. I love having conversations with retailers, with budtenders, with buyers, with LPs, with reps, and just listening to problems. There's so many problems in this.
Oh, yeah.
So many things aren't working. And I try to think of solutions, and I'm like, this is common sense. Why are you guys wasting money? I don't know, maybe just bad business, but there's a lot of wastage of money and stuff that's not done with ROI and data in mind. There's a lot of people just doing business with this, like hoping and praying that things work out. And I don't believe in doing business that way. You can't just hope and pray. There has to be a method to everything that you do and a purpose behind it. And I saw the sampling was a problem. I attend most of the events, and all I see is LPs handing out samples. And I'm like, where are you sending these to? These are just like people that you're not tracking where these samples are going. And when I see somebody getting a sample, in my mind, I'm seeing them handing out $5 bills.
Yeah. Yeah, we can align there. 100%.
Yeah, if you were standing at a booth handing out, nobody would hand out $5 bills. So why are you giving samples like that? Why are you not actually getting an email address and knowing who the person is, and then being able to follow up and track to see, is your money going to good use? So people are like, no, just spread them.
The more we can get out there, we're using T-shirt bazookas at at stadiums.
Yeah, so I don't believe in doing business that way. I did my Elevate conference, and it was like, we're going to hand out samples, but I'm going to get you a QR code. You can scan the badge of the person that's there, be able to have all their contact information. Then it's on you to actually follow up with these people. And I realized that when I do attend these events, there's not a lot of actual buyers and retail owners that go to these
decision makers.
The key decision makers. Yeah, they are from some of the larger chains, but the average retailer doesn't have the time to attend some meetings. I'm so lucky that I have my family that enables me to do these types of things. But the average person doesn't get a chance to go. They're working in the store and trying to focus on their business. So And I know for a fact in my business, we get tons of samples. I showed you a picture of samples that came in yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And they don't actually get to the person that actually presses that and submit button on OCS, right? That's the most important part.
Right.
Yes, it's important to get them to butt tenders and all the other people, but I always believe that first get it on the store shelf, convince the buyer or the owner to bring your product in, and then you work with the butt tenders and give them the samples and teach them how to sell your product and help it move. Yeah, you can bring in the first case, but then how do you get that case moving to one case?
Right. Consistent sales. Yeah.
Yeah. So dope box was, people are like, it's too expensive. We can't hire reps. We can't do this and this and that. So I'm like, okay, let's create a program where we can get samples in the hands of reps, of the actual store buyers. And I'm seeing so many agencies that had reps, they're all failing and going out of business. I'm like, well, somebody's doing something wrong, and we're not leveraging technology well enough to do this. So I think over the last 4 or 5 months, I've been doing these courses on digital marketing and e-commerce and all this stuff, and ideas are coming from that on how we can apply things to our industry. And GoPots was like such an easy solution. Like, why hasn't anybody thought of this? People are like, this is brilliant. I'm like, no, it's not really. It's just too simple. Nobody looked at it. That get a box, put samples in there, put a QR code on there so that people can scan it and get feedback on that product, and then mail it out to the people that actually are in charge of buying, and then follow up with those people. You don't need a ton of reps in the field.
Yeah, you have a captive audience. I mean, you've got retailers signing up saying, yes, send me a dope box, right? What better, it's the same as sending out 1,000 emails and getting 50 responses going, yeah, we'd like a sample and information about it. But the vast majority of brands aren't even doing that.
They're not even doing that. So there's a gap in that marketplace, and I think we're able to fill it. Luckily, just to, like you said, you got to push the boulder up the hill. You got to prove your concept, and nobody believes in it until you actually like
Yeah.
do it.
Well, they didn't believe Henry Ford inventing a car was going to be any success either. And I didn't bring my horse to the studio today. So
when I have a few people in the industry, I'm lucky from an LP side that support me, and they know that I'm trying to do things not just to make money in the industry, but also to help support and build the industry, right? I genuinely do want to help as many people as possible, many brands as possible. I want to see them succeed, but sometimes it's like leading a horse to water, like,
oh yeah,
to drink it.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't even want to drink it, right? They're like, so yeah, I think the dope box is easily a number one thing. I talked to a client yesterday, and he's like, Dad, we have a budget for one thing. Should we do bank reviews or dope box? Like, first you do dope box, right? There's nothing more important than getting your
distribution,
the hands
get it reviewed, yeah.
No point in
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if we're not carrying your product, right? So
yeah, you mentioned something that I want to clarify for just our audience and community in general, because there's been a lot of certain individuals that are very vocal about, oh, people are just trying to milk this industry for money and whatnot. And to that, I say, why the hell else are you in business? Period. Right? You're not doing it just, because you want to be stressed out. But number two, from meeting you and spending time, and we've built a friendship and we chat quite often, I can say without 100% doubt that your intent truly is to see this industry and the individual operators and brands within it succeed. Yes, you want to make money. Who doesn't?
Yes.
Right? But you're not going to be like the early days cannabis industry with the pump and dumps. You're there to support it. You're looking for new opportunities, developing these ideas like the dope box. That takes input, capital, and sweat equity as well to be able to roll a program like that out. But at the end of the day, most of the conversations we end up having are around, how do we support the brands? How do we support the retailers? How do we connect the dots to make sure that it's a thriving industry? Not one where it's a moment in time where you see certain success for a brand or a retail location, but one that has long-lasting effects within the industry. Not a week, a month, a year, but 5 years, 10 years, a legacy. So I can say that that's one of the things that I love so much is that, about you is you are genuine in the fact that you want to see success happen, not just for yourself, but other individuals as well, which is, why you've got this huge WhatsApp group with retailers too, right?
Well, yeah, you see, you got to lift up everybody. We got to all win, right? And unfortunately, not everybody will. There'll be some people that can't make it, but as an industry as a whole, we have to do this. And there's still people saying it's a new industry, and I don't want to get caught up in the excuses of being new. I'm like, we've been in this for 5 years, right? We can't figure our shit out in 5 years. Like, come on.
I think back to the Steve Jobs story when it comes to that, right? Where, we're doing something new, Steve. We can't. And he was not big on allowing that thought to infect his teams. Doesn't matter if it's new. It needs to be perfect. We need to figure it out. We need to make this work, which I love. So, okay, Dope Boss is successful. Brands, make sure you're taking part of that. Now we go to, you don't have enough going on. You've got VIP Media, you've got Elevate, you've got Dank Reviews, Dope Box, and then you go, let's close the loop. Let's make sure we're touching every facet of this industry. And you bring us Astro Boyz, which we've seen with the guerrilla marketing has been very successful thus far. And it's not even in market yet. Tell us about Astro Boyz. Where was the concept born from first?
So Astro Boyz is the concept came from a mini series I've been writing.
Whoa, hold on. Now you're writing something.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
Is for Netflix. I was in the process of building something, and I was in Vancouver for Christmas holidays visiting relatives. And while I was doing the work of that writing, I just, my brain ticked into building, turning it into a cannabis theme thing, because the story actually had a plant in there. Like, what if I turned it into a plant, the cannabis plant? And all of a sudden, like, ideas started coming to me. I love writing and very creative. I'm very much into science fiction, and I came up with the name Astro Boyz. Came up with a brand, created the whole story behind it. Learned the LP side of the business. Came back in January and talked to tons of friends of mine that own brands, whether they're white label or this and that, and figured out what to do, what not to do, and did my product submissions, pitched it to OCS. They loved it. They thought, oh my God, this is such a great story. And we're lucky we got 8 SKUs approved in our first submission. And that is
crazy,
mind-blowing. I thought we were going to get 1 approved. When they approved 8, I was like, God damn, this is an opportunity now to build something. Like, this is a real business. You can't really make a lot of money with 1 SKU, or not much excitement about it, but
yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's some we think, within the industry that do it very well with 1. But in other cases, you're right. 1 SKU Sue, if we're talking, Kevin O'Leary, right? He's like, they don't typically succeed. Well, you could have those SKUs across different provinces too. But when you say the OCS love the story, what do you mean the story? The story behind Astro Boyz? The story about how you're going to bring it to market, or what?
When I pitched it, they just had smiles on their face. Like, this is amazing. There's a story behind it. There's not a single brand out there really that has a true story that you can tell, that a consumer can really relate to, other than 1 or 2 sentences you can say about somebody. And most of the brand stories are, oh, we were legal and now we're
legacy to legal, which we love, but there's a lot of them.
But there should be more than that. Right? There's a lot of good brands out there. Those Crops, Loud Plot. It's guys that are doing it really, really well that I really look up to in this industry. I was like, I'm just going to make a different type of brand, something totally fun and unique. And I wanted something that would transcend the bubble of the cannabis industry. My whole goal has always been, let's make this an industry we can be proud of. Let's make it legal. Let's get rid of these stigmas. And Astro Boyz is going to be one of those brands that's going to break those barriers and hopefully become a name that people that don't consume cannabis will actually recognize, know about, as well too. So I'm taking this blue ocean theory approach to our marketing. Instead of just getting caught up in the sea of all the other SKUs and just competing and doing things against everybody else, we're just doing it in a totally different way than what's been done before. You know the story of the aliens coming here, and I've got people in Hollywood making the costumes for us. It's something I'm really, really excited about. The whole industry seems to know about it. I put an ad out for like a national sales manager because I want to build a solid team and really grow this whole property. And oh my God, the people that I've had interviews with, it's so amazing.
Well, and so what is being, I mean, we're talking about a lot of the successes so far, but you know, specific to Astro Boyz, what's the challenge been so far?
The challenge so far, I don't think I've had the challenges because I don't have a product in the market yet.
Okay.
And I think that the challenges from what everyone else is telling me is, yeah, when you come up new, there's a honeymoon period. People are going to buy your products, right? So don't be too excited for that. It's after that, right? So the LP I chose to work with was like, I'll do the marketing, but you got to make sure that the product, I should get one case in the store. I'll get a customer to buy it one time. You got to make sure there's that product in there. And what makes it good? Okay, we're going to make sure we have great quality product. We're going to make sure we don't sell this product to anybody else. There's too many products in the market that people are just buying leftover weed from other people, repackaging it, putting it under in a different bag and claiming to be great weed, right? So it has to be exclusive to us. I'm not going to sell our flower to anybody else. We're going to make sure we come up with strains that, you know, are well thought through, products that are well thought through. We're going to make sure we make products that are in-house, so we're not relying on any third parties to manufacture for us. That can hurt your supply chain. The numbers can change, all these types of things. So let's try to produce as much as we can, keep it within our control, the whole supply chain in our control, and then already anticipate that, yeah, the first batch was going to sell out. But now let's prepare for 6 months down the road. Let's prepare for 9, 10 months down the road. And I don't want to start building a team then. I want to start building that team now so they can be prepared.
You have to staff up for the future, right? It's very similar, and Wes knows this in tech, right? Is we may not necessarily know who we're selling it to, but we know they're going to need the features. And the only way to do that is we got to staff up. We got to get developers. We got to get QA people. We need to have release managers so that we are ready. So it's no different than cannabis, right? Investing all this capital up front for something hopefully to come. But I mean, you are singing our song, right? We put out a customer buying journey, I don't know, 6 months ago, relevant and specific to cannabis. And it was starting with awareness and those stages that a customer or consumer will go through up until becoming an advocate. Right. And that's the goal. That's not done overnight. That's not done with your first order and your first, shipment that comes into your retail stores. It's the 4th and the 10th and the 15th orders, because those customers that then become advocates, the ones that are out there almost as ambassadors saying, have you tried this product? It's good. Right. And so they're making this mindful awareness of the brand, but also the product is backing it up. So one, I love, we won't talk too much about where it's, who the LP partners or anything are, but I love that you're showing love in the Maritimes because there's some fantastic LPs out there. But also that you're keeping the cultivars that are being chosen specific to Astro Boyz, because we do see that a lot, right? Where, a certain cultivar is growing, it's bred and growing, but then it's used across multiple products, which then you better have good brand presence if you want it to, to continue. So I love the fact that, these strains and cultivars will remain with Astro Boyz. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's and also choosing the right LP partner is important. Make sure, financially strong, up to date on the right side, all these things.
Yeah.
A lot of people that get burned and they've lost a ton of money. I talk to great brands all the time that didn't get paid from their LP. They have to speak up and start all over again. It's a tough battle out there. So we got to do this differently.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Well, we do know that we'll see success based on everything that you've been doing, right? So I think that your perspective and insight is a little bit different than, you know, someone, say myself, coming in and going, I'm just going to create a cannabis brand. And well, how are you going to have success? Oh, I'm going to hope and pray. Right? I'm going to put all my hope and prayers into this, and hopefully that'll let it succeed. So, I mean, when can we expect Astro Boyz? I know that you've got an event and this sort of stuff coming up for a launch party. When are we expecting to see Astro Boyz in market? And tell us about the launch party, because I want to be there for that. I think Legacy needs to be there.
Yeah, Legacy will be there for sure. But launch parties can be a lot of fun. We're doing it on July 18th. So this was in line with the summer fair. It ends up being one of the biggest weeks of cannabis in our industry. And I know there'll be people from all over Canada here that are part of the industry. So we thought we'd host an event just after Kite. And I talked to Josh, got his blessing, and as well too. They didn't want to like overstep and do something with vessels from him. He was like, yeah, no problem. Feel free to do it. So it's we created an event called the 420 Affair. It's a networking event for retail owners, managers, buyers, LP reps, and other industry associates. I like to kind of do stuff at the executive level, because I think that's where a lot of the decisions in business stuff is made, and I think that's where I can provide the most value to the industry as well. So we're going to do the event there, and then during that event is when we'll introduce the Astro Boyz brand. The aliens will be making their first appearance to it, and after that, the aliens will be household names very soon.
Very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Love that it's an event launch party. I think that when able to do so, we've seen some brands, you know, some that have come in from the US, and they're very boisterous about their presence in Canada. And I think that it's important if there's a way to do it. It doesn't have to be at that scale necessarily, but very much looking forward to the 420 Affair. That's July 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
July 18th. We'll have like 500-600 people minimum there. Already, I think 300 plus have registered, and food, alcohol, everything's free. We're going to go all out to make sure people have a great time.
And then when does the product hit shelves? I mean, well, let's say, when is it available on because I've had to learn this world, right? So OCS wholesale, it becomes available when?
I think it's going to be around July 10th. They haven't actually announced the date yet.
Oh,
I think we should be getting our purchase orders around the end of this month, and then they stagger the releases of products over like every week. They'll release a certain number of SKUs in the next week.
Before it becomes live on the OCS as well as being able to buy as a consumer. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, eight SKUs coming out. 6 will be general listing, and 2 will be on social.
That's so good, man. Congrats on that. Like, I know the difficulty and challenges in getting a GL with OCS, so that's awesome. So
I got to prove myself now, right? They believed in me.
Yeah.
But I got to rip my ass off and
put your product where your mouth is.
Yeah. And like, if they have the faith in me, I'll show up and deliver.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I'm sure you
like,
will.
I can't let them down and make them look bad that they gave me.
It's personal now. It becomes personal.
Yeah.
At this point. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So we've been doing something really, really fun each week. We have our guests, so we're going to have you do this, but we have our previous guest pose a question to you. But before we get into that, I'd be crazy not to ask you this. There's been a lot of changes. There's been recommendations for amendments, both at the retail level and operating as a brand or an LP. What are you seeing? What are you hopeful for? Or, you know, what has changed recently that you think was smart, or anything, any insight you can give us?
I still think that there's still a big stigma. Even after 5 years, we don't see it because we're in the industry all the time, and this has become our world. People who are not in our bubble, in our world, still have a huge stigma about cannabis. And I think one of the ways to remove that stigma is by getting rid of the window coverings on our store.
At the retail locations.
Even if a person doesn't come into our store, just the fact that we look like we're a shady business behind,
it feels like a speakeasy still.
Yeah, it feels like it's something wrong in there, and we need to get rid of that. And I think the moment you take the window coverings off, you're telling the public, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. And it should be socially acceptable. And that may actually bring in people into the store that are afraid to still come in.
Like, look at
And
Sativa Bliss. It's beautiful. You
Yeah.
should be able to show that off to the passerbys. Like,
Yeah. And even people that can see in the store, they'll come in and just look around. They might discover CBD. They might discover a drink. Just to, like, you don't have to become a stoner, but at least an opportunity to talk to them and see that this is normal. And I think you got to.
You're raising a good point.
Message.
There was chatter around, they were at least certain provinces, I think, have changed some of the regs.
BC, BC has got
BC, yeah. And then there was some Ontario stores that just said, fuck it, I'm taking them down
Yeah.
anyways. We know how that went.
Well, it also affects the people that are working in the stores, right? Because if you're working in a store, you don't have access to sunlight all day long. It's not even a safe environment. Somebody could walk in off the door behind you, and you don't know if the store is being robbed or not. They got
that's true. There could be a robbery going on inside it. Yeah,
it's happened in Alberta. I believe it happened where attendant got shot because they just walked in, and you can spend an hour in the store.
Man. Yeah,
and nobody's going to come.
What do you feel is the reasoning behind? Like, I'm just going through this. Like, you bring up it's a smart topic, but what is the reasoning for covering the windows? Like, you can't. I mean, if people on the street can read anything to do with cannabis inside the store, other than seeing some really beautiful designs, they're not going to see the product necessarily. They're on shelves.
Protecting the children.
Yeah, protecting the children. Yeah, don't look in there. Don't look in that store, Johnny. They sell weed.
Yeah,
like, what the hell?
Don't forget about the children, right? But alcohol, no problem.
Yeah, walk through the LCBO with me and look at all this.
Yeah, I can bring my child into the LCBO with me as long as they don't touch a product that's on the shelf. I mean, they're getting older now, anyways.
Even they could, though, right? The
I
product
don't know. I know you can't. I did when I was years back when one of my kids, I don't know how old they were. They might have been 10, 12, something like that. I'm like, we're doing errands. I got to stop in here and grab something. I think I had them carrying something. The typical dad model of, I'm going to put everything here. I don't need a cart. So they had something. And I remember on the way up to the cashier, one of the store clerks or individuals had said they can't be holding that. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll take it. Now, whether they're worried they're going to drop it or have an RTV because of it, God knows what. But I just don't understand. I can bring them into an alcohol.
Yeah, technically they could actually open it and drink it.
A lot easier than they could ever. Well, first of all, they can't get their hands on a cannabis product in the retail store. That's number one. Yeah. Number two is, even if they could, I can't even get the damn things open half the time. Like, as much as and that's one of the reasons I do not buy large flat bags of flour. I end up having to cut the tops off them. And I'm sure people listening, they're going to go, oh, yeah, get over it, buddy. I'm serious. Some of these bags, I struggle to get open. I love Canna Broker. I think it's Mike, right? He just chops the top off. He doesn't care, right? But get a kid in there, if they were to get their hands on it, they're not going to get it open easily anyways. So what's the difference? But we should start a campaign around it.
These double standards need to be kind of get rid of. I was quite upset with Health Canada last year when they legalized gambling. And I actually asked them at a conference, I'm like, what are you afraid of with cannabis? They always say protecting the children, but they don't actually tell you what they're afraid of and what data that they have that they're using to make these decisions. Because gaming became legal. And I saw Wayne Gretzky billboards and all sorts of shit. And I was like, holy shit, what's going on with me? I'm more afraid. I can't watch a hockey game anymore on TV. It's all gambling. My son's got his betting on who's going to score next. And I'm more afraid of my son getting addicted to gambling than I am of cannabis. You guys are totally okay with the gambling part of it. So, like, are you not thinking of the children? What is it about cannabis that you
and not only about blatantly advertising it and being in your face? Celebrity endorsement is totally okay. Right?
Yeah.
You said Wayne Gretzky. He's got alcohol. He's
Yeah.
endorsing gambling sites. I mean, it's not just him, and there's multiple celebrities that do this.
You could argue well, they're much worse for children in society.
Oh yeah,
For
sure. And the data points that they are using, they have not drawn a line necessarily to show illegal black market products or illicit versus regulated, right? It's very rare that when they start talking about ER room visits and increase in children consuming cannabis accidentally, there's never, it was legal regulated cannabis versus illicit market, because the vast majority of cases that I would think that they're consuming these and potentially showing up at the ER or wherever are illicit market products. The individuals are a little bit more responsible that are going out of their way to visit a retail location or shopping online, have a medical prescription potentially, and purchasing that. Number one, it's expensive. I'm going to make sure my kids can't get a hold of it if they even do. But two, if you're going to say it's to protect the children, right, which is not why we have a legal regulated cannabis industry to begin with. It was to combat the black market, right? We can say everything we want, Mr. Trudeau. But at the end of the day, it was a matter of, okay, you want to protect the children? Great. But then at least use data points that prove that it is based on the regulated industry and one that you're putting so much money into. Yeah. And we could do an entire
and I think
series
the
on
best
this.
way to, I think the best way to actually protect the children is to educate them and let them know that, yeah, even at 12, 13 years old, that this thing does exist. I'm too young for it right now. People, like the bartenders that we've had working for it, they've been consuming since they were like 12 years old, 13 years old. Where was their protection? Well, we got protected.
It was for a forbidden fruit situation, right? Anytime something's 100% forbidden, you'll have individuals that want to try it. And look at, it was one of the reasoning that Portugal just said, you know what, all drugs are legal, right? Or sorry, not legal, but we're not going to incarcerate over any drug. And then all of a sudden, all crime went down. Imagine that. Anyways, what we'd like to do, Jazz, is pose a question from Mr. Bubbleman himself. That's who we had on last week, Marcus Richardson. He posed a question. He did not know it was going to be you coming in, but he posed a question blindly, much like Dank Reviews, right? He wants to know something. Wes, can you read that
so I've got Marcus's question, and we've actually already answered it kind of at the beginning of the segment with Jazz, but it was he wanted to know your foundations for getting into the industry. What was that big driving factor for you of why you got in? And you kind of alluded to a little bit earlier that it was the CBD side of things. You understood the benefits, you wanted to get in, but if there's anything more you wanted to add on that just to appease Marcus, that'd be great.
Well, it was the CBD side. I think I've actually told this story to Marcus. I was fortunate to have dinner with him. It was like 2018 at Lyft in Vancouver. And Bruce Kelly and them were starting Embark back then. And we all went for lunch together, and I had an opportunity to meet with Marcus. And wow, I was like so impressed with everything that he's done and how much knowledge that he had. So it's nice I get to answer one of his questions. But yeah, medical was the main reason that I liked it. I worked my ass off. I learned everything I could about the medical side and the benefits of CBD for this industry, and then trickled into the THC and understand that world as well. It's definitely medical, and I think we do have. There's a lot of people that talk about the medical benefits of the industry, and I think we need to spend a lot more time focusing on those. There's too many people. We kind of have this like stoner attitude towards this medical, and I'm like self-diagnosing myself. I remember one of the first videos I ever watched trying to learn about weed was this magic butter machine. And this guy, it was on YouTube, this guy came out, I was just learning about extraction and whatnot. This guy came out, the studio was like a lab. He had his white lab coat on, this and that. Oh, this is going to be cool, I'm going to learn. And like 5 minutes into the video, he's like riding around on a tricycle in circles. So I think there's a way to like actually make the medical side of it a little bit more serious and teach people about it. I think we're missing the gap on even not just from a CBD side, but from a THC side as well too. That we don't always have to just try to get stoned
Mhm.
really high.
It's a really good point,
Either way.
Jess. It really is. And I think we've come so far into the regulated adult use market that we forgot the roots of why we even have an existing market to begin with, which was going back to my days of an MMAR. And there was jokes around there, oh, anyone can get an MMAR. The vast majority that were seeking cannabis for medical purposes, we're really trying to combat something, right? And even my own personal reasons, not opioid addiction, but opiate use, chronic pain forever, right? Which leads to, which we discovered with Shauna Levy, anxieties just around your pain and the suffering and what you're dealing with, and bringing that forward and being able to discuss it and talk about it. And then, all of a sudden, we forget about the medical side for whatever reason. And Shauna had actually brought up some really good points around the entire wellness category when it comes to cannabis and the use and difficulties and challenges with, retailers stocking wellness products because it's not typically your main consumer demographic that's coming in. They're coming in to buy cannabis for THC, and that's what they're looking for. So you're right. I think that there needs to be.
That would change with the window coverings. Because as you
100%.
Well, what I can actually walk in
Yeah,
here.
imagine that, right? Let's get rid of those window coverings. Okay, so Jazz, now you get to pose a question to the next incoming guest who will be on next week.
The next week's guest. And I don't know who that person is. How do we stop getting people to buy cannabis primarily based on THC percentage?
Whoa. That's going to be a good question. And knowing the guest, they will have. I almost said it.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty positive they'll have a good answer.
They're going to have a really good answer. So we'll stay tuned for that. But
I think that's an important thing for this industry to evolve into.
It is price and potency driving everything. THC, higher THC, and the individuals. This is why I'm really looking forward to having Ryan Lee on in the future as soon as we can make it work. Is his extensive research into understanding flavonoids and the terpene content and how it reacts with the body, and everyone's a little bit different. And we need to change that. We need to have more conversations around find something with a 3+% terpene profile. May only be a 20% flower, but if it's got that, oh boy, you're going to be in for a really good time. That's for sure.
Well, when was the last time you bought wine and looked at the actual alcohol percentage?
I don't think I do, ever. Yeah.
Wow.
And if it's outside of wine, typically you just assume it's probably 40% proof. So yeah, I don't really look at it. But Jazz, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. We could talk for hours, and we do, even outside of this. We certainly wanted to be able to share your story and your legacy that you have built and are building, because you have a different perspective, and being able to speak to it not only from an entrepreneur perspective of the industry in general, but from retail and marketing, and also now a brand. I think people are smart enough to pay attention, but they need to pay a lot more attention to what you're saying, because you're genuinely trying to help, and we appreciate that. But we love the fact that you made time to come on the show and just shoot the shit with us for the last, I don't know, hour and a half. We could go on forever.
But thank you to you guys too as well too. We need podcasts that have been building conversation with people that truly understand the industry and the business side of the industry, not just about the flower only. We got to conversations like this is what help build the industry, and I was a big fan of speaking with smart people that can share great ideas.
Oh, we appreciate that. Smart people, Wes, did you hear that?
I'll take it. I'm
getting a tattoo.
Yeah.
All right, Jazz, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon, but we do appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey friends, guess what? It's almost t-shirt season. You ready? You should be rocking your favorite brand. Head on over to thehighflyer.ca and check out all the licensed cannabis brand swag that we've got available. From Moto to Victoria Cannabis Company, Smoker Farms, Royal Harvest, the list goes on, and there's more coming on every single week. Check it out, add it to your cart, and be prepped. Sun's out, guns out.
Wes, I don't think Jazz sleeps. I'm starting to wonder with Astro Boyz if maybe he's an alien. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I was about to think he was going to tell us his next project was launching a rocket into space, like someone else we know. But
Jeez, I did see. David Berg. You remember Strain Print? David Berg. He
Yeah,
is now. He's accepted a role with Nord Space. What is it? What's our Canadian space agency?
not NORAD.
No, not NORAD.
No.
No. But I don't know. He's going to be
Northrop
working on
Northrop Grumman.
something like that. I forget what it is. I'll find it and send it to you in Slack. But anyways, David Berg's moving into space arena. Anyways, nice to have Jazz on. We chat a lot. He's just so interesting. He's always got so much. You can see he's got business ideas always going.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a matter of being able to pull the lever and execute on all of them, but all for good reason. When he sees a problem, he just wants to solve it. Vanilla Ice style. Anyways, been a good episode. Loved having Jazz on. Looking forward to the next one and posing that question, right? How do we change the conversation about THC? It's going to be a good one.
Great. Looking forward to it. And it's been another good week.
It has. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week on Legacies.